21. Black actors who tragically died too young. They were kings on screen, voices that defined generations, faces we thought would never fade. One hid stage 4 cancer, while $1 billion poured in, and children saluted his name. One sold 75 million records and was gone at 25, at a red light in Las Vegas. One anchored the highest-grossing show on Broadway, more than 1,000 times. And some carried private battles no one ever saw, smiling for the cameras while the weight grew unbearable. 21 brilliant lives, each one ending far too soon, leaving unfinished films, unwritten songs, and a world still asking why. Stay with us to the very end, because every single name here deserves to be remembered. Subscribe to Secret Celebrity Stories.
Tupac Shakur.
There are artists who capture a moment, and then there are those who seem to hold a whole generation inside a single voice. Tupac Shakur was the second kind. Born Tupac Amaru Shakur on June 16, 1971, in East Harlem, he was raised by his mother, Afeni, a Black Panther activist who had defended herself in court while pregnant with him. He trained at the Baltimore School for the Arts, studying poetry and acting beside a young Jada Pinkett, and by 17 had written the verse later published as The Rose That Grew from Concrete. His 1992 film debut in Juice astonished critics. Roger Ebert called his Bishop one of the great villainous turns in modern cinema, and he followed it with Poetic Justice, opposite Janet Jackson and Above the Rim, with director John Singleton later comparing his raw instincts to those of a young Marlon Brando. But music made him immortal. Albums like Me Against the World and All Eyes on Me helped him sell more than 75 million records worldwide, placing him among the best-selling recording artists in all of history, even as he was still only beginning to reveal his range. Then, on September 7, 1996, leaving a boxing match in Las Vegas, he was shot multiple times at a red light. He fought for 6 days before passing away on September 13, 1996, at just 25. The case stayed officially unsolved for decades, until a 2023 grand jury indictment reopened it. What Tupac left behind was staggering. But what haunts us is everything he didn't leave. The films unmade, the verses unwritten, an entire second half of a life only beginning to show how much he still had to give the world. Aaliyah. Some voices feel less like sound and more like a mood you step inside of. And Aaliyah had exactly that kind of voice. Born Aaliyah Dana Houghton on January 16, 1979, in Brooklyn and raised in Detroit, she signed her first record deal at just 12. Her earliest years carried a painful chapter, an illegal underage marriage to a producer, swiftly annulled. But out of that difficult start, she became one of the most quietly influential vocalists of her generation, redefining R&B with a soft, breathy delivery and the shimmering rhythms of a young Timbaland. Her second album, One in a Million, sold more than 8 million copies worldwide, and her 2001 self-titled record debuted at number 2 on the Billboard 200, with timeless songs like Try Again. She earned 3 Grammy nominations and shaped an entire aesthetic that artists from Beyoncé to Rihanna to Normani have named as foundational. Her acting rose just as fast. In 2000, she starred opposite Jet Li in Romeo Must Die, becoming the first black female lead in a modern action film of that scale, and it grossed more than $90 million worldwide. She had finished Queen of the Damned, with 3 Matrix sequels waiting, when the unthinkable happened. On August 25, 2001, after filming a video in the Bahamas, she boarded a small plane home. It was dangerously overloaded, and the pilot unauthorized, and it crashed shortly after takeoff, taking Aaliyah and 8 others. She was only 22. 2 decades later, her long-hidden catalog reached streaming and instantly broke records, proof she had been so far ahead of her time that the world is only now catching up. Chadwick Boseman. When the news came on August 28, 2020, the world fell silent. And then came the second wave of grief, the realization of what he had endured in secret. Chadwick Boseman was born on November 29, 1976, in Anderson, South Carolina, and studied directing at Howard University, mentored by Felicia Rashad, before a trip funded partly by Oprah Winfrey, sent him to train at Oxford. For years, Hollywood overlooked that preparation. He took small roles, sometimes unable to make rent. Then came 42 in 2013, his dignified Jackie Robinson, followed by James Brown in Get On Up, and Thurgood Marshall in Marshall, 3 towering black figures in just 4 years, each requiring total transformation. And then Black Panther changed the world. As King T'Challa, he became the first black superhero to anchor a billion-dollar franchise. The film earned over $1.347 billion and became the first superhero movie ever nominated for Best Picture. What no one knew was that Boseman had been diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer in 2016, later advancing to stage 4. Through Black Panther, both Avengers films, Da 5 Bloods, and his Oscar-nominated final performance in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, he endured surgeries and chemotherapy in complete privacy, fearing it would change how directors saw him. He passed away at just 43, surrounded by family and his wife, Taylor Simone Ledward, whom he had quietly married. He had even visited children fighting cancer in hospitals, while secretly waging the very same battle himself, never once letting them see it. He carried the weight of a global crown and a private war, and never once asked a single soul to help him lighten either one. Nipsey Hussle. He built his whole philosophy on one radical idea, that you don't have to leave the place that raised you in order to rise. Born Ermias Joseph Askedum on August 15, 1985, in Crenshaw, Los Angeles. The son of an Eritrean immigrant father, he came up amid South Central's hardest realities and joined a gang at 14. But a trip to Eritrea at 19 redirected his entire vision, and he returned determined to lift his community through ownership rather than escape. He spent more than a decade as one of independent hip-hop's most respected mixtape artists, and famously sold his 2013 project Crenshaw for $100 a copy. Jay-Z bought 100 of them himself. His debut album, Victory Lap, arrived in February 2018, debuting at number 4 on the Billboard 200 and earning a 2019 Grammy nomination. But his boldest work was in the world itself. He bought the entire plaza where his Marathon store stood, invested in STEM education for inner-city youth, and co-founded the public art project Destination Crenshaw. His creed, buy back the block, invest in your people, became gospel for a generation. Then, on March 31, 2019, just 27 days after his Grammy nomination, he was shot and killed in his own store's parking lot at only 33. More than 21,000 people filled the Staples Center for his memorial, and Barack Obama wrote his family a personal letter. His music has since earned billions of streams, and the corner of Crenshaw and Slauson now officially bears his name. He didn't escape his neighborhood to become a legend. He stayed and made it immortal. DMX. Few artists ever laid their pain so bare or turned it so completely into art as DMX. Born Earl Simmons on December 18, 1970, in Mount Vernon, New York, his childhood was an unbroken chain of trauma, abuse, abandonment, and homelessness on the streets of Yonkers. He found hip-hop as an escape from a rage that always threatened to consume him. And when his 1998 debut, It's Dark and Hell is Hot, exploded at number 1, selling over 5 million copies in the US alone, a phenomenon was born. What followed was unmatched in the genre at the time. 5 straight number 1 albums in just 3 years. Songs like Party Up and X Gon Give It To Ya became permanent staples of the culture. His acting caught fire just as fast. Belly Opposite Nas, Romeo Must Die with Aaliyah, Exit Wounds, and Cradle to the Grave gave him action star credibility, while Never Die Alone revealed real dramatic depth. But beneath the triumph, Earl carried an addiction that began, by his own account, when a mentor secretly laced his joint at just 14. A betrayal he spoke about with painful honesty in his final years. Stints in rehab and prison followed, and his gravel-voiced prayers revealed a soul in a lifelong search for peace. On April 2, 2021, he suffered a catastrophic heart attack, and after a week on life support, he passed away on April 9th, surrounded by his 15 children. He was 50. The man who roared his suffering into the microphone was, all along, reaching for grace. And that honesty is exactly why the world loved him and mourns him still. Malcolm Jamal Warner. For 8 seasons, millions of families watched him grow up as if he were one of their own. And when he was taken, it felt exactly like losing one. Born Malcolm Jamal Warner on August 18, 1970, in Jersey City, his name honored both the activist Malcolm X and the jazz pianist Ahmad Jamal. At just 13, he was cast as Theo Huxtable on The Cosby Show in 1984, a series that became the most-watched sitcom in America for 5 straight seasons, and profoundly reshaped how black families were seen on television. His performance earned a 1986 Emmy nomination, and his father-son scenes remain among the most beloved ever filmed. But he refused to be defined by that single role, building a remarkably durable career, starring opposite Eddie Griffin in Malcolm and Eddie, and playing Dr. AJ the Raptor Austin on The Resident from 2018 to 2023. He was a true polymath, an actor, director, jazz bassist, poet, and podcast host, and his spoken-word musicianship earned both a Grammy nomination and later a win. He guarded his private life fiercely, marrying around 2020 and welcoming a daughter soon after. Then, on July 20, 2025, while on a family vacation at Playa Cocles in Costa Rica's Limón province, he was caught in a powerful rip current while swimming, and despite rescue attempts, he could not be saved. He died of accidental drowning at 54. His loss struck a generation that had, quite literally, grown up alongside him. A painful reminder that the people who feel most permanent, most woven into the fabric of our own childhoods, were never truly promised to us at all. Michael Clark Duncan. He stood 6'5" and weighed 315 pounds, and everyone who met him said the same thing. The gentleness of the man completely overwhelmed the size of him. Born Michael Clark Duncan on December 10, 1957, in Chicago, he grew up in poverty on the South Side, raised by a single mother. Before acting, he dug ditches and worked as a bodyguard for celebrities including Will Smith, Jamie Foxx, and the notorious B.I.G. And he was devastated when Biggie was murdered just hours after Duncan went off duty. His breakthrough as Bear in Armageddon led straight to the role that defined his life, John Coffey in The Green Mile in 1999, opposite Tom Hanks. His portrayal of a wrongfully convicted, mysteriously gifted death row inmate was so heartbreakingly tender that it earned him Academy Award, Golden Globe, and Screen Actors Guild nominations at once, a rare feat for a single dramatic role. Through the 2000s, he became a Hollywood fixture, from Daredevil to Planet of the Apes, lending his booming voice to Kung Fu Panda and Brother Bear, and showing a warm comic touch in Talladega Nights. His co-stars, without exception, described him as one of the kindest souls in the industry. On July 13, 2012, he suffered a major heart attack at his Los Angeles home. His fiancée performed CPR until paramedics arrived, but he never fully recovered, passing away on September 3, 2012, at 54. Hollywood grieved a gentle giant whose towering presence was matched only by the vastness of his heart, a man who played figures of great power and was remembered, in the end, purely for his tenderness. Gary Coleman. Few faces defined an entire decade of television the way his did, and few lives laid bare the industry's cruelty so painfully. Born Gary Wayne Coleman on February 8, 1968, in Zion, Illinois, and adopted as an infant, he was diagnosed with a rare autoimmune kidney disease that stunted his growth and required 2 transplants before he was 14. Though he reached only 4'8", he became one of the most recognizable child stars in American history when NBC cast him at 10 as Arnold Jackson on Different Strokes. His delivery of "What you talkin' about, Willis?" became one of the most quoted catchphrases of the 1980s, and across 8 seasons, he earned a reported $100,000 per episode, among the highest-paid child actors of his time. But that success hid a devastating reality. His earnings were so badly mismanaged that when he sued for control of his own trust, a case filed in 1989 and settled in 1993, much of the money was already gone. He filed for bankruptcy in 1999 and the years that followed saw him working as a security guard and enduring tabloid ridicule rather than industry support. His different strokes castmates met their own tragic fates, and the show's so-called curse became one of Hollywood's most sorrowful cautionary tales about how it treats the children who enrich it. On May 26, 2010, Coleman suffered a brain hemorrhage after a fall at his Utah home, and 2 days later he passed away at just 42. His story remains a lasting warning of how a child's fortune and a child's very childhood can be quietly taken while the world watches and laughs along.
Heavy D.
He proved, joyfully and permanently, that hip-hop could be warm, generous, and light enough to dance to. Born Dwight Arrington Myers on May 24, 1967, in Mandeville, Jamaica, he emigrated as a child to Mount Vernon, New York, the same town that gave the world DMX and Sean Combs, and formed Heavy D and the Boys in 1986. Their 1987 debut, Living Large, was the very first album released on Uptown Records, the label that would later launch Mary J. Blige and Jodeci. He pioneered a smoother, R&B-infused strain of mainstream rap long before that blend became standard, and his charisma and nimble footwork made hits like Now That We Found Love impossible to escape on early 1990s radio. He recorded with Michael Jackson on Jam, produced for Mary J. Blige's landmark My Life, and in 1997 became the first hip-hop artist ever to serve as president of a major label when Universal appointed him head of Uptown Records, a role he used to mentor young artists and champion Diddy's early career. His acting flourished too, from the Fox sitcom Rock to the Cider House Rules to his final film, Tower Heist, released just months before his death. On November 8, 2011, he collapsed outside his Beverly Hills home and died from a pulmonary embolism caused by a blood clot following a long flight. He was only 44 and had performed at the BET Hip Hop Awards a mere month earlier. His daughter, Sia, was just 11 years old. The hip-hop world lost one of its rarest, gentlest spirits, a heavy man, as those who loved him said, with an even heavier heart. Thomas Michael Ford. Some performers hold an entire ensemble together simply by being the warmest soul in the room, and that was Thomas Michael Ford. Born on September 5, 1964, in Los Angeles, he grew up working class, studied communications at Cal State LA, and took small roles on 227 and Family Matters before the opportunity that changed everything. In 1992, Fox cast him as Tommy on Martin, the breakout sitcom starring Martin Lawrence. As the impeccably dressed, perpetually unemployed friend who always had advice to give, Ford became one-third of the show's iconic trio, and his running gag, Tommy Ain't Got No Job, became one of the most quoted recurring jokes in 1990s black sitcom history. Across 5 seasons, Martin drew weekly audiences exceeding 11 million viewers and became a defining cultural touchstone. But it was the life he built beyond the laughter that truly defined him. He directed regional theater, wrote children's books urging young black readers to choose education over the streets, and gave motivational talks at schools and youth detention centers nationwide, tirelessly mentoring at-risk kids in Atlanta, Chicago, and Detroit. He even ran an Atlanta wine bar as a labor of love. On October 12, 2016, he was rushed to a hospital after a ruptured abdominal aneurysm, and despite emergency surgery, he passed away that same day at 52. Tributes poured in from his Martin family, Martin Lawrence, Tisha Campbell, Tichina Arnold, every one of them describing him as the gentlest member of the cast, the one who lifted everyone else up. His quiet legacy of mentorship, built entirely far from any camera, continues to outlive the man himself to this day. Natalie Desselle Reid. She could steal any scene she was in, and she spent her career using that gift to make room for women Hollywood had long refused to see. Born Natalie Desselle on April 12, 1967, in Newport News, Virginia, she first studied business before the acting bug caught hold, and she moved to Los Angeles with little more than determination, sleeping on friends' floors and auditioning relentlessly. Her breakthrough came in 1997 with BAPS, the Halle Berry comedy directed by Robert Townsend, where her portrayal of the loyal, sky-high confident best friend Mickey stole virtually every scene she shared with Barry. The film became a cult classic, and her gift for combining broad physical comedy with deep sincerity announced a singular talent. She built a career that deliberately centered full-figured black women in an era when Hollywood ignored them, starring opposite Eve in the UPN sitcom Eve from 2003 to 2006, and appearing in Medea's Big Happy Family and the beloved Cinderella alongside Brandy and Whitney Houston. She became a vocal advocate for body positivity decades before social media made it a movement, telling young black girls they deserved leading lady roles, leading lady love stories, and leading lady joy. On December 7, 2020, she passed away at 53 after a private battle with colon cancer, like Chadwick Boseman just months before, having quietly endured her illness without public disclosure. Halle Berry called her one of the most genuine, kind-hearted people she had ever known. Natalie left behind a husband and 3 children, and a legacy that proved, joyfully, that beauty and worth come in every size and every shade. Lee Thompson Young. He seemed, to everyone watching, like the child star who had somehow found the way to do it all right, which is part of what makes his loss ache so deeply. Born Lee Thompson Young on February 1, 1984, in Columbia, South Carolina, he was cast by the Disney Channel at just 13 as the lead in the famous Jet Jackson, the network's first-ever drama, built around a black teenage boy. The show ran from 1998 to 2001, across 65 episodes, and became a real touchstone for a generation. Then Young accomplished the hardest thing in the business. He navigated the transition to adult work that ends so many child stars' careers. He earned a cinema degree with honors from the University of Southern California while acting, appeared in Friday Night Lights opposite Billy Bob Thornton, played Cyborg on Smallville, and found a mature breakthrough as Detective Barry Frost on TNT's Rizzoli and Isles, beginning in 2010. Across 3 seasons, he gave one of his most subtle, grounded performances, and his co-stars, without exception, described him as gentle, thoughtful, and remarkably kind. What almost none of them knew was that Young had been privately living with bipolar disorder for years, quietly working to manage a condition he hid from nearly everyone, afraid disclosing it would cost him his casting. He died by suicide on August 19, 2013, at just 29. In his memory, his mother founded the Lee Thompson Young Foundation to support young people facing mental health challenges, turning an unbearable loss into a source of help and hope for others, and ensuring that the gentleness so many felt from him keeps reaching those who need it most. Yvette Wilson. She could deliver the voice of hard-won wisdom and the biggest laugh in the room, very often in the same breath. Born Yvette Marie Wilson on March 6, 1964, in Los Angeles, she grew up steeped in the city's black entertainment culture and sharpened her comedy on the gritty LA club circuit, alongside future legends like Bernie Mac and Cedric the Entertainer. Her observational humor, rooted in working-class family life, connected with audiences instantly. Her breakthrough came in 1996, when UPN cast her as Andell Wilkerson, the wisecracking diner owner on Brandy's hit sitcom Moesha. As the sassy, irreverent voice of common sense in the Mitchell family's world, Andell delivered some of the show's most quotable lines, and Yvette's chemistry with Brandy was so beloved that when the Parkers spun off in 1999, she moved to it seamlessly, anchoring that show for 5 more seasons. Nearly a decade of continuous presence that made her one of black sitcom's most dependable comedic hearts. She appeared in films like House Party 3 and Friday opposite Ice Cube, and kept performing stand-up throughout her TV career. But behind the relentless laughter, Yvette had been quietly battling cervical cancer since the late 2000s, a disease that spread to her kidneys and required dialysis. She refused to make her illness her brand or seek public sympathy, keeping its severity hidden from most fans. On June 14, 2012, she passed away at just 48 from complications of her cancer. Her castmates, Brandy, Monique, Countess Vaughn, Cheryl Lee Ralph, were devastated, describing her as the family member they never imagined losing so soon. She spent her whole life giving other people joy and asked for so little of it in return. Lamont Bentley. For nearly a decade, He was one of the most dependable and genuinely beloved presences on black television. Born Lamont Cary Bentley on January 25, 1973, in Los Angeles, he began in commercials and small appearances as a teenager, working up through guest spots on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and Family Matters. His warm, naturally funny charm making him an instant favorite for lovable supporting roles. His career-defining part came in 1996 when UPN cast him as Hakeem Campbell on Brandy's Moesha, the perpetually hungry, endearingly oblivious neighbor who strolled into the Mitchell family's home as though he owned it. Across 6 seasons, Hakeem became one of the most beloved supporting characters of 1990s television, his refrigerator raids and goofy one-liners delivering some of the show's most quotable moments. When the Parkers launched in 1999, Bentley reprised the role across all 5 of its seasons, deepening Hakeem into a more thoughtful young man navigating college and ambition. He also appeared in films including Tales from the Hood and Trippin', and pursued a hip-hop career under the name Lyrical Lou, releasing mixtapes and collaborating with West Coast producers. He was a true multi-hyphenate, still growing, still expanding what he could do. Then, on January 18, 2005, while driving home alone late one night on the Ventura Freeway, his vehicle veered off the road and crashed, and he died at the scene, just 1 week before his 32nd birthday. Toxicology reports showed no impairment, leaving the cause a permanent mystery for his family and fans. He was a performer who had spent a decade making audiences feel at home in his company, taken suddenly, with so much of his story still left to tell. Rasual Butler. His was a life of 2 full chapters, and both were closed in a single devastating instant. Born Rasual Marshall Butler on May 23, 1979, in Philadelphia, he grew up in a tough part of West Philly and honed his shooting at LaSalle University before the Miami Heat drafted him in the 2nd round in 2002. Across 13 NBA seasons, he played for 9 teams: the Heat, Hornets, Clippers, Raptors, Spurs, Lakers, and more. The very model of the consummate journeyman, quiet, dependable, and respected throughout the league. He once dropped a career-high 35 points against the Pistons, retired in 2016, with more than 700 games played and earnings exceeding $30 million, and then reinvented himself, moving into independent film, fashion modeling, and screenwriting centered on basketball culture. He was engaged to the R&B singer Leah Walker, known professionally as Leah LaBelle, a former American Idol contestant and charting recording artist, and together they represented a rising power couple, dividing their time between Los Angeles and Atlanta. Then, on January 31, 2018, around 2 in the morning, Rasual was driving through Studio City with Leah beside him when he lost control at extreme speed on Ventura Boulevard. The crash took both their lives instantly. He was 38, and she was only 31. The tragedy stunned both the NBA and the music world, with stars like LeBron James, Chris Paul, and Carmelo Anthony posting grief-stricken tributes. 2 people who had each built extraordinary careers, and who were building a shared life together, were gone in the very same moment. A loss that echoed across 2 industries, and left everyone who knew them struggling to grasp how much promise vanished on that road.
Jason Reyes. He originated one of the most iconic roles in the history of Broadway, and his voice still echoes through every performance of it staged anywhere in the world. Born Jason Reyes Rothenberg on July 20th, 1975, in Oneonta, New York, he discovered performance in high school theater and moved to New York City chasing Broadway with the focus of someone who knew exactly what he wanted. In November 1997, that dream came true. Disney cast him as the original adult Simba in the Broadway production of The Lion King. Julie Taymor's groundbreaking staging that would become the highest-grossing Broadway production in history. Across a 3-year run until 2000, he performed the role more than 1,200 times, originating vocal arrangements that would shape every subsequent production around the globe. His soulful tenor leaving audiences in awe. He also voiced Dennehy in Disney's animated Brother Bear in 2003, but performing was only half of who he was. Jason became deeply committed to environmental activism, eventually appointed a United Nations Goodwill Ambassador for the Environment, using his platform to speak about climate change and endangered species. Themes that echoed the Lion King's own message about the circle of life. He traveled widely across Asia, Africa, and Australia doing advocacy work, and eventually settled on a small ranch in Yass, New South Wales, where he worked with horses and wrote songs. On February 3, 2004, Jason died by suicide at just 28, having quietly struggled with depression for years without letting those close to him see how deep it ran. The Broadway community gathered for a memorial that drew hundreds of Lion King cast members from productions worldwide. His Simba lives on through every performer who has since inherited the role.
Mia Amber Davis.
She refused the verdict the world tried to hand her, and in that refusal, she quietly opened a door for countless women who would follow. Born Mia Amber Davis on December 24, 1974, in Long Branch, New Jersey. She grew up confident in a body that fashion and Hollywood routinely told women like her was unacceptable, and she simply declined to believe it. After college, she built a rich career as a plus-size model, actress, and writer at a time when plus size was still dismissed as a niche rather than a reality. Her breakthrough came in Todd Phillips's 2000 comedy Road Trip, where she played Rhonda, a confident, self-assured college student whose unforgettable scene flipped every tired stereotype about how plus-size women were supposed to behave on screen. The film grossed more than $119 million worldwide, and Mia became an instant icon to plus-size women who finally saw themselves portrayed with humor, desire, and dignity. She kept acting through the 2000s, walked runways for Lane Bryant, and wrote columns for Mode, one of the first major magazines devoted to plus-size fashion. She became one of the loudest, earliest voices for body positivity, nearly a decade before social media made it mainstream, launching her own lifestyle platform and mentoring younger models. She married the writer Frank Warren in 2010, and the two seemed to be building toward a long creative life together. Then, on May 14, 2011, just one day after a routine knee surgery, Mia died suddenly from a pulmonary embolism at only 36. The body-positive movement she helped pioneer would reshape our culture, but it lost its most fearless early champion years before the world she fought for arrived.
Christopher Big Black Boykin.
Some people, according to everyone who knew them, are put here for the simple purpose of making other people laugh, and few ever did it more joyfully than Big Black. Born Christopher Boykin on January 13, 1972, in Memphis, Tennessee. He served 4 years in the United States Navy, rising to military police duties before returning to civilian life and working as a bodyguard for Hollywood figures. That job placed him in the orbit of the professional skateboarder Rob Dyrdek, and their unlikely friendship became one of MTV's most beloved partnerships. When Rob and Big premiered in November 2006, audiences fell instantly for the chemistry between Dyrdek's hyperactive energy and Boykin's enormous, gentle, almost childlike warmth. Across 3 seasons, the two became cultural icons through a stream of absurd buddy adventures, adopting a miniature horse, building backyard fortresses, taking on ridiculous dares. And Big Black's catchphrase, "Do work, son," embedded itself permanently in a generation's vocabulary. The show became one of MTV's highest-rated reality programs, peaking above 2 million viewers an episode. He appeared on Dyrdek's later shows Fantasy Factory and Ridiculousness, launched his own VH1 series, and toured with sold-out stand-up gigs, his booming laugh becoming his signature. But behind that joyful persona, Big Black quietly struggled with weight-related health issues he often downplayed out of pride, masking serious cardiovascular problems. On May 9, 2017, He collapsed at his home in Plano, Texas, and was pronounced dead from a heart attack at just 45, leaving behind his daughter, Isis. Rob Dyrdek's heartfelt tribute became one of the most watched celebrity memorial posts of that year. The world lost a man whose entire mission, those closest to him said, was simply to make everyone around him laugh. Moses J. Mosley.
He built a career out of quiet persistence in an industry that hands almost nothing out for free, and those who knew him remember a relentlessly cheerful, generous spirit. Born Moses J. Mosley on March 23, 1990, in Atlanta, Georgia, he spent his early years chasing background acting opportunities throughout the city's booming film industry, using Georgia's rise as a major production hub to land continuous work. His breakthrough came when AMC's juggernaut The Walking Dead cast him as one of the 2 chained pet walkers attached to the fan-favorite character Michonne when she first appeared at the end of Season 2 in 2012. Though the role had no spoken lines, his haunting presence made him one of the most visually iconic background characters in the show's entire run, and the makeup transforming him required hours of preparation each day. His scenes recurred across multiple episodes, and beyond The Walking Dead, he appeared in The Hunger Games, Catching Fire, and HBO's Watchmen. He was steadily building toward more substantial speaking roles as he entered his early 30s, described by friends and managers as ambitious, dedicated, and genuinely hopeful about his future. Those who loved him knew Moses as kind, generous, and almost impossibly upbeat, someone who filled his social media with positivity and never hinted at any private pain. On January 27, 2022, after his family reported him missing, Moses was found deceased, and his death was ruled a suicide. He was just 31. The loss devastated his family, friends, and Walking Dead colleagues, none of whom had noticed any warning signs, and his story became a heartbreaking reminder that the brightest smiles can conceal the deepest struggles, and that no one is ever beyond the reach of pain.